I was going to ask a question to the two gentlemen in Abuja about what is Nigeria to you, but let's put that aside and look at it from this side. In setting an agenda for the government, we've talked about infrastructure, we've talked about development. The three pillars that the government campaigned on: security, corruption, and the economy, and they're taking it to the next level. So let's look at how to the economy, revenue generation. Nigeria is known to generate most of our revenue from the oil sector. What can be done, or what should the government be looking to do to generate more revenue besides loans? Let's start with Mr. Onanuju.
On the issue of the economy, I'm really happy you brought this up now, because it was actually on my mind. But where I'm going to is this. I always believe Nigeria should be run as a tax space. Allow private enterprise to drive everything and tax them. Let those who don't pay tax go to prison before the armed robbers go to prison. This is what I believe. And that's why I say we should right now address a very important question. It was not publicly available as an argument, but it's deeply underground. It's a democracy. Have we agreed that it should be market-driven? If it is, in the past 4 years, no single privatization. I believe that we should allow the private sector to drive economic growth. And this is where there is a fundamental difference with the position of the government. I think we should unbundle everything that the government holds, allow the private sector to run them. And then, as they run everything that they do, tax everybody for what they do. If a man does not pay his tax, let him go to prison before an armed robber goes to prison. That way, we'll generate as much money as possible to actually be able to take care of the poor who seem to complain about the effect of competition on them. And that's the beauty about government, because government will never be able to cater for everybody. Allow the private sector to drive growth, and then use the money you have to cushion the effect of those very, very stiff competitive issues on the poor. That's one. Secondly, the issue of taxation is good, but how can you tax when you know very well government agencies don't pay tax? So allow the private sector to actually run those things. When they run it, you will be able to say, pay tax. You know, a lot of government organizations don't even pay electricity bill. It was that bad. NEPA was down. But now, the private operators can throw you and tell you, pay me my bill. If you don't pay, I'll cut it off. And you won't tell him nothing, because it's not owned by government. It's not a private organization that owns that. So what I am saying, we should, as a national discourse, agree that private industry should drive economic growth, not government. Okay. Government can do that.
At that point, Mr. Onanuju, let's bring in Mr. Akeoshun. Mr. Akeoshun, do you agree with that?
Without a doubt, it is good when the private sector drives industry in the country. That definitely is a quick step towards moving forward. However, as Mr. Onanuju said, that taxation should also be a mainstay, but you must have businesses to tax.
That's right.
And I do like what he said about tax defaulters going to prison, because if I do remember, the most defaulters we have in this country are the big politicians. And without removing from the seriousness of what we're talking about, we need to expand the economy. You will see that the Export Promotion Council started a program which they call Zero Oil, and they have been looking at how to expand the economy. Agriculture has been expanded under this in this last 4 years. A lot of farmers are being empowered. A lot of export is being encouraged as well in the private sector. And until we begin to drive that, but also in privatizing, we need to be careful. As he has mentioned, the power sector has been privatized, but how is it monitored? How is it managed? The people who bought it, they are not investing in it is a real problem we have. And the power sector, the government, contrary to what he said, has been intervening a lot in ensuring that payments are made so that the gas suppliers are being paid, the GenCos are getting 80% assurance of that whatever they generate, they will be paid. And it is the last mile of even collections that the DISCOs have not been able to do in getting the power to individual homes and being able to collect the money. So how do we ensure that when you privatize the whole country, you are able to manage it? It is a phased thing. The ones that have been privatized now, how are we managing them? Do we have good post-privatization management in place? How is it working? Of all the industries that have been privatized in Nigeria today, I think only 2 or 3 of them can we say have given a good report in the nation as a whole. The ports have been privatized. What do we see? The money has been going to a lot of individual pockets. It's not coming back into the system. And until we have a system that ensures proper accountability and consequence for bad behavior, if you take it, you will be imprisoned. But unfortunately, the whole system needs to be revamped and be reflated. As you can see, there's no consequence for bad behavior is what has gotten us here. When a rich man steals money or does what is wrong, you will find the poor people shouting and saying he's being oppressed. But when a poor man is going to jail for stealing a telephone, nobody says anything about it. But we go to streets and protest and say, oh, he's being victimized. It is political victimization. Federal government has been trying to collect back a lot of the monies that have been taken out wrongly by individuals. But what do we see? We see a lot of fair tricks in court. We see a lot of delays going on in the system of administration of justice. And until the administration of justice is fixed, we're going to have a lot of trouble in this country. Because as long as people believe that once I steal and I can bribe my way through or I'll get away with a slap on the back of my wrist, this is the first time we're seeing governors going to prison. And we need to see more of these things quicker than we've been seeing it. Otherwise, nobody will take us serious.
Mr. Akinwunshu, you mentioned diversification. Some people believe that diversification isn't happening fast enough, with especially the dwindling and perhaps unpredictable oil prices.
Diversification cannot happen overnight. It is something that will happen gradually.
Well,
we're coming from a zero base where there was nothing existing before to build it up. I mean, if you're going to expand the farming, for instance, I have a brother who was an accountant who's just gone into farming. He's not going to start exporting immediately. What he will do is that he's going to plant, he's going to yield, and this takes a time frame to develop, to grow. I know of doctors in the US who have come back to Nigeria to invest in farmlands. So I know that there are a lot of people who are now looking at doing other things that they would not have done. As an accountant, my brother would have been looking for a job somewhere or working in the company, but now he's producing. Doctors, I know a doctor who came back from the US who has invested in a cattle ranch. He's doing tractor farming in Osun State. And you're beginning to see that this will expand gradually, but you're not going to see the results overnight because these things had been shut down before.
Well, before we take a break, I wanted to ask Mr. Ononuju, the reference that was made to the pace of justice delivery in the country and how that impacts on every other thing. You're a lawyer as well. Do you agree?
Well, I believe in the Chinese saying that says, when a fish starts to go bad, it starts from the head. And I believe the issue about impunity, it's actually an issue from the executive branch. If the executive branch allows those that it employs to actually do their work properly, we wouldn't be where we are. If those who commit illegal acts, like killing farmers, like going to snatch ballot boxes, are prosecuted, nobody will do it next time. But if you do not show them that there is punishment for offenses that they commit, of course, impunity will grow. So I believe the issue about that has to do with the body language, as they say, of the executive. Why do I say this? when a general was killed in Plateau State, the government invested their energy, and there was so much forensic investigation about that. And at the end of the day, where he was buried was found, where his car was found. Do we put that much energy in the other things that we do? Like what happened last Saturday. The snatchers of the ballot box from Agbo Palace Way that later on ended up in the hospital. What did the police do? That's an offense. You have to follow up. Let them know there are consequences for the actions that they unleash upon other citizens.
At that point, we'll have to take a break. At that point, we'll take a break. When we come back, Mr. Akinoshun will allow you respond, and then we'll come to Lagos and allow Mr. Aino also respond. But that will be after the break.
Okay.